Alright, so for this first look today, we are doing a look that is minimalistic and a base for the second two later on. So I'm applying a full coverage concealer over any spots that are slightly not in correspondence with Mickey's skin tone. You could do color correction at this point if you have any drastic discolorations. So I'm just going above the cheekbones and under the eye and a little bit up onto the nose bridge. And then on the outer corner of the eye. And up onto the lid a little bit. And then up onto the forehead as needed. And this particular concealer that I was using here also kind of works as a facial primer almost. You could use a facial primer here, but it's not totally necessary. And then just onto the chin. And under the cheekbones and around the corners of the lip and around the nose. And then I am applying a tinted moisturizer here. Now, if you are using a concealer palette for the contour or a type of cream makeup for the contour, you could do the contour before you add your tinted moisturizer. But since we're doing powders, we're doing the tinted moisturizer first, powder, and then the contour marks. So I'm just going all over her whole face. And then I'm making sure with this especially to blend down the jawline into the neck a little bit as necessary. Just to even everything out. And then I'm setting this with a pressed powder as close as her skin tone as possible. Or as close to her skin tone as possible. If any bristles fall out of your brush, like what was happening with my hair, make sure you get those off. And with this too, you're also going to want to blend on the jawline and down the neck. Alright, so now I'm going in. I was using a neutral eyeshadow palette, but honestly, if you have any sort of like cream contouring thing or concealers, like different colored concealers, you could do this. So this step is important because so the philosophy with this is men have more shadows in their face than women do. And so we are drawing on where those shadows would be. Contouring is basically tricking the eye enhancing parts that we would want to be enhanced and disguising parts that we would not want to be enhanced. So I did make a mistake over there because Mickey has some hella cheekbones. I realized that the eyeshadow that I used was a little bit too dark and a little bit too heavy on that side. So I just went in with a poofy fan brush, and there was also some fallout. So just went over that as much as I could to diffuse the color and make it not so dramatic, and it worked. And the key with the contour into whatever you use for your contour and makeup in general for being a man, if you are a female, you do not want it to be sparkly. Unless you want to be a sparkly man, but if you're just trying to pass here with this, you do not want any shimmer makeup. Males typically, naturally, are not shimmery, at least. Alright, and then I am going just right around the outer corner of her eyelid and her eye with a light eyeshadow, basically her skin tone eyeshadow. Just right underneath the eye. And you just kind of want to follow the shape of the eye socket. And so men have deeper lines here. I don't remember what those folds are called, but you want to make a lion face basically, like Mickey is showing off here. And then I'm using the lightest brown that I have and just literally tracing and buffing those out really well. And then I'm going in that area again with that same color that I used in those folds around her mouth. So if you can kind of see where I'm going, just right on the opposite side of her nose and underneath the eye. And then I'm going in with a very, very, very light brown eyeliner just on the upper and lower lash line. I suppose you could waterline here. I've never tried that, but I suppose it could work here too. And then I'm just taking an angled brush and smudging out that line that I just created. So remember that we're creating shadows everywhere. And then I'm going all over the lid with just that same light eyeshadow in her skin tone. And I'm also going right over where I just made that line. Then you can't quite see it here, but I'm creating sideburns. I just used a color that matches Mickey's hair, and I just went down from the shaved side, like to right about where her cheekbone kind of starts, and then on the other side too. Or where the bottom of the cheekbone starts, I guess. You can kind of play around with your sideburns, but for this look, we're just trying to be minimalist here. It's just like if Mickey was trying to go out, pass in public sort of thing. And then I am filling in her eyebrows with a kind of a denser angled brush. And then I'm just using a black because that matches her hair color. And then I am just following her natural brow pattern. I'm not going over any of the lines of like the outer sides of her eyebrow. I'm just filling it in. This step can be really tricky if this is your first time or if you're not very familiar with doing it, because as you can see, the eyeshadow can fall out or expand if you're not being careful. So apply concealer as necessary, just to make those lines not so poofy, I guess. Or to make the lines distinct, that's a better word. And then I'm just going in with a finer angled brush on all of the edges, just to solidify all the area of her eyebrow. And another thing that's tricky about this is if you use a dark color there, it can make them look even thicker than they actually are. So now I'm plotting out the facial hair. And for this, you'll just want to go by the natural hair on your face. If you can't really see it, then just kind of feel around for it. And then ideally you'll want to use an eyeshadow that matches your hair color, but is not so highly pigmented like my eyeshadow neutrals palette is. Basically what I had to do was, well, ideally I was trying to use leftover eyeshadow, but then I realized that I needed more than what was on the brush, so having to dump some color off of there and like wiping it on a tissue and then getting it on so it wasn't too dark, or applying it to her face not too dark. So again, following the natural growth pattern of hair on her face, or I should say the peach fuzz. And soul patch and goatee, because why not? Making sure all of that's consistent. And then for that pattern, I just went along the jawline. You can kind of have creative freedom with it. Just make sure that it's not so dark. So then I went over with a very fluffy brush without anything on it. So you can see that it's really taking off even more of the color. And it's blending it in. And that's the end of look 1. And now for the second look, which is slightly less casual. So for this facial hair, what I'm doing here is just using a mascara. Preferably use one that you don't really care about, but one that works well enough to get the stuff on your face. And then I'm going in with a disposable mascara wand, or I guess you could use an old mascara wand, one that doesn't have any product on it. And then just combing out the areas where it's chunky. And then for this pattern, I was just going exactly right over where I had that black before. And the facial hair pattern that I plotted out with that black that I'm going over with her face, it helps to darken where I'm putting that mascara now, so it looks a little bit thicker. Looks a little bit more natural as well. And then I'm just basically contouring her Adam's apple, or giving her one. Not gonna lie, I felt her throat a couple times. So feel around if you need to. If you're doing this on somebody else, don't choke him, please. And then just along the outer sides of her neck. And I'm doing this in the lightest brown that I have. And then I'm taking that same brown and I just went on the outer sides of her nose. And then I'm actually using a gray eyeliner here. I can't exactly tell, it's like a dark gray, almost black, but we just kind of did that for fun. So with this look too, we wanted to kind of do like a man wearing makeup type of look. Or like a basic, like another drag look. Like this is a very basic drag king look here. And then I was going on the waterline and the lower lash line, and then the upper lash line here with black. And then I'm taking the angled brush again and I'm smudging that liner out so it doesn't look quite so harsh. And same on the bottom lid and into the outer corner a little bit, just to kind of blend them together. And I'm kind of extending that line out a little bit. Gonna do like a pseudo smoky eye, I guess, here. And then I'm taking a lighter brown, or no, more of a medium brown, and blending from the outer corner to the inner corners, and then alternating a lighter brown more towards the middle. Make sure to blend. And then now I'm thickening the eyebrows a little bit more, going lower than where her actual eyebrow hairs are growing. And same on the top, just a little bit. And I don't think it was shown, but if you have a spoolie brush, that will also help to disperse the product through your brow hairs. And that's the final look for number 2. And then for this last look, I decided to play with some color here. This is like the most dramatic look, so to speak. So Mickey had this cool, like, reddish color that I decided to use here. And I'm just kind of going right over everything, but not too much into the eyeliner. And then I'm using this really cool, like, silvery eyeshadow just to throw in some sparkle for fun, where I think it would be appropriate for a Manta sparkle. And that's the last look. Special thanks to Mickey for being my beautiful model, and thank you for watching. Check out the previous video.
Be sure to subscribe and check out Logan's music, available on Bandcamp.